Very good morning, students. In previous classes, we completed up to mid-1 syllabus, and also we completed the part 1 of unit 3, stresses, bending stresses in beams. From now onwards, in this class, we will discuss about the shear stresses in beams. It is also under the unit 3. As we know that in the second chapter, we drawn the shear force and bending moment diagrams. That means while beam is bending, both shear forces and bending moments will be developed within the beam. Due to the bending moment, the bending stresses will be developed across the section, as we discussed in the earlier chapter. And in this chapter, purely we are going to discuss about the only pure shear stresses. That means the stresses induced in a beam while it is bending due to shear forces. These shear forces are varying along the beam. That means the shear stresses induced in the beam varies along the beam. That means the point to point the shear stresses are varies along the beam, and also the shear stresses are across the beam varies across the beam. So not only along the beam the shear stresses are varies, these shear stresses are varies across the beam. Across the beam means in the depth wise. That means that from the neutral axis, the shear stresses are different at different layers. Let us first derive in this chapter shear stress equation. After deriving the shear stress equation, we are going to use that equation to solve the problems across the different sections, circular, rectangular, T sections and I sections. And shear stress distribution, shear stress distribution, we can draw the diagram for the shear stress distribution by calculating the shear stresses at different layers. First, we are going to derive the shear stress equation. Before going to derive the shear stress equation, in the last chapter, we have seen that when a part of beam is subjected to a constant bending moment and zero shear force. In the last chapter, we seen about the bending moment and bending stresses, pure bending stresses. Then there will be no bending stresses in the beam. In this chapter, the bending stresses we are not considering the bending stresses. Only pure shear stresses we are considering in this chapter. But in actual practice, a beam subjected to bending moment, which varies from section to section, also shear force acting on the beam is not zero. It is also varies from section to section. Due to these shear forces, the beam will be subjected to shear stresses. These shear stresses will be acting across the transverse sections of the beam. That means perpendicular to the axis of the beam. These transverse shear stresses will produce a complementary horizontal shear stresses. These are stresses which are induced in the beam horizontal direction. That means along the axis of the beam, which will act on the longitudinal layers of the beam. Hence, the beam will also be subjected to shear stresses. In this chapter, the distribution of shear stress across the various sections such as rectangular section, circular section, I section and T section will be determined. Let us look at the diagram. This is the diagram in which the shear stresses varies across the section. Let us take a beam, simply supported beam with UDL, uniformly distributed load. The diagram A shows that simply supported beam with UDL. Let us take two transfer sections, AB and CD. AB and CD are the two transfer sections across the beam. They are enlarged view of the diagram shown in figure B. That is, AB is the one of the transfer sections, CD is the another transection. They are dx apart. During bending of this beam, while bending of this beam, the moments will be developed at different cross sections. Let us take M is the moment, that is the bending moment developed across the section AB, and M plus dm is the bending moment across the section CD, because the bending moment is also varies along the beam. The bending moment will varies along the beam point to point. Somewhere else at AB, the bending moment is taken as M, and at another section, the bending moment is taken as M plus dm. Why we call it is M plus dm? Some other bending moment which is not equal to M. A small increment or decrement, dm is represents small increment or decrement, either less bending moment or more bending moment than the M at point C, that is across the section CD. M plus dm is the bending moment. Due to these bending moments during bending of a beam, the stresses induced in the beam, let us take a layer, that is a layer which is shown at this place at a distance of y1, and at a distance of y, another a cylindrical element. In the figure C shows that cylindrical element, this is a small cross-sectional area element on which the stresses are induced during bending of a beam, which is considering above the neutral layer or above the neutral axis. Whenever the layer which is above the neutral axis, if it is simply supported beam, compression stresses are induced in that element. As we earlier studied in the bending stresses, the compression stresses are induced, compressive stresses are induced at the upper layers, tensile stresses are induced at in the bottom layers if it is simply supported beam. Now we are considering a cylindrical element at a distance of y, which is shown in the diagram C, that is y, this is y at a distance of y. We are considering an a cylindrical element. During bending of this beam, the stresses are induced in this beam in opposite directions. During bending, the stresses, compressive stresses are induced in this element. Let us take sigma is the stress induced at the section AB on the element, and the sigma plus d sigma. Why it is called that sigma plus d sigma? Because the bending, if the bending moment varies, the stresses also varies. If we consider M the bending moment at section AB, the stress is sigma at AB. Clear, students? While bending of that beam like this is the neutral layer. We are considering a layer, a cylindrical element at particular distance. During bending of the beam, the internal forces will develop. That internal forces, compressive forces, are developed in that layer above the neutral layer. Due to these compression forces, compressive stresses are induced in the layer which are considered above the neutral layer. That stresses are varies along the beam also, because at the particular section where the bending moment is M, the stresses depends on the M, because sigma is equal to M by I into Y. This is the bending equation. Sigma depends on the bending moment and Y, distance of that layer from the neutral axis, and also moment of inertia. At a particular section, at particular distance of Y, the sigma is depends on the M, bending moment. That bending moment varies along the beam. That means at a particular section M and another particular cross section we are considering M plus dm, because M is not constant along the beam. That's why we are considering M plus dm. Some other bending moment will be developed at the section CD. So whenever the bending moment changes along the beam, the stresses also changes. Stresses also different. So that's why sigma is considering at the section AB, and sigma plus d sigma is the another stresses will be developed at the section CD in opposite direction, because it is a compressive. Clear, students? During bending of the beam, these are the stresses induced at the section AB and CD. So in the previous slide, figure A shows a simply supported beam carrying a uniformly distributed load. For a uniformly distributed load, the shear force and bending moment vary along the length of the beam. Shear forces are not constant, and also bending moment also not constant along the beam, which is varies along the beam. Consider two sections AB and CD of this beam at a distance of dx apart. Let at the section AB, this is the AB section, F is the shear force, M is the bending moment, and at section CD, another section CD, the shear force is not constant. Shear forces are different and bending moments also different, because the bending moment shear forces are varies along the beam. The AB having the different shear force and bending moment, CD also different shear force and bending moment. They are not constant along the beam. Therefore, we are considering shear forces are different at different sections. So section CD, shear force we are considering F plus DF is the shear force, M plus DM is the bending moment, and I is the moment of inertia of section about the neutral axis, which is constant along the beam. It is required to find the shear stress on the section AB at a distance of y1 from the neutral axis. Figure C, we are going to derive the equation of shear stress at a particular layer. In the particular layer, at this we are considering EF. EF is the layer. On that EF layer, what is the shear stresses are inducing? We are going to derive the shear stress on the particular layer EF, which is at a distance of y1. EF layer is at a distance of y1. This is the y1 at a distance of y1 from the neutral axis. Clear, students? So on that EF layer, we are going to find the shear stress tau. So figure C shows the cross section of the beam. On the cross section of the beam, let EF be a line at a distance of y1 from the neutral axis. We are considering EF layer in the cross section of the beam. We are considering EF layer at a distance of y1 from neutral axis. Now consider the part of the beam above the level EF and between the section AB and CD. This part of the beam may be taken to consist of an infinite number of elemental cylinders, each of area dA and length dx. What it means? This is the shaded area, which are considering shaded area above the level EF. In that shaded area, different infinite number of areas are cylindrical areas are there. That particular cylindrical area, in that shaded area, we are considering a particular cylindrical elemental area having dA is the area. Having dA is the area. dA is the small area at a length of dx. The length of the cylindrical area, this is the cylindrical element, is dx, which is dx in this case, which is shown in the figure B. It is front view. It is the side view. See, figure C shows that side view having the length dx. Consider one such elemental cylinder at a distance of y from the neutral axis. We are considering a particular area dA at a distance of y from the neutral axis. Clear, students? Here we are considering two levels. One is the EF level. We are going to calculate the shear stress at particular level EF, and also above the EF level, the total area EFGH is the area. Due to that EFGH area which slides over the EF layer, due to that sliding, the shear stresses are developed at the EF. So in that shaded area, we are going to consider another small elemental area dA at a distance of y from the neutral axis. So dA is the area of elemental cylinder, dx is the length of the elemental cylinder, y distance of elemental cylinder from neutral axis. Let sigma, the intensity of bending stress on the end of elemental cylinder on the section AB. Here sigma here I consider the sigma is the stress at AB section on this elemental cylinder. This is the elemental cylinder on which we are considering the stress induced in the elemental cylinder on the section A at the section AB is sigma. Okay. Now, sigma plus d sigma is the intensity of bending similarly at the end of elemental cylinder on the section CD. On the section CD side, we are considering the stresses induced on the elemental cylinder is sigma plus d sigma. Why it is different? Because bending moments are different at different sections. That's why the stresses also varies along the beam. The bending stress at a distance of y from the neutral axis is the bending stress at a distance of y from the neutral axis. Bending equation is m by I equal to sigma by y. We know that the bending equation for the bending stress sigma equal to m by I into y. Already we studied in the earlier chapter. So for a given beam, the bending stress is a uniform. Bending stress is uniform. So bending stress is a function of bending moment. Bending stress is a function of bending moment, and the distance of y from the neutral axis, it depends on three parameters, m, y and I. I is the constant along the beam, and y varies across the beam, which is also constant along the beam. Therefore, along the beam, the m is not constant. Therefore, stresses are different along the beam. Lengthwise varies, the stresses are varies lengthwise, and also on depthwise. So let us find the bending stress on the end of the elemental cylinder at the section AB and also at the section CD. So what is the equation of bending stress at the section AB and CD? Bending stress on the end of elemental cylinder on section AB, where bending moment is m. Where the bending moment is m, the bending stresses are sigma equal to m by I into y. This is the equation. Similarly, bending stress on the end of the elemental cylinder on the section CD, another end of the elemental cylinder where the bending moment is m plus dm. Similarly, we can write the bending stress at the section CD. Sigma plus d sigma is the bending stress, which is equal to m plus dm is the bending moment at section CD, and I is the constant at AB and CD is equal to y, and y is also constant because we are considering parallel to axis. The elemental cylinder is parallel to axis. Therefore, the distance of one end of the elemental cylinder at AB is equal to distance of another end of the elemental cylinder at section CD. So y is also constant. Therefore, bending stress becomes at CD section sigma plus d sigma equal to m plus dm by I into y. So on the section CD, bending moment is m plus dm and bending stress is sigma plus d sigma. Now let us find the forces. These are the two stresses which are induced at the two ends of the elemental cylinder at two different sections. Now let us find the forces on the two ends of the elemental cylinder. If we know the stress, then we can find the forces. So force on that elemental cylinder on the section AB. So if we know the stress at AB on this elemental cylinder, then we can find the force at this particular point, force on this at particular point. How much force is acting during bending? During bending, during bending of this beam, how much force acting on the opposite directions at section A, B, and C. So we know that if we know the stress, F is equal to stress into area at section AB and at section CD. So area of the cylindrical element is, we are considering dA. Therefore, force is equal to force acting at this particular point in opposite direction is equal to sigma into dA. Sigma into dA is the force acting at particular end, and at this end, sigma plus d sigma is the stress and dA is the area. So sigma plus d sigma into dA is the force in opposite direction. So this is the opposite direction forces. Two opposite direction forces, due to these two opposite direction forces, compressive forces will be developed in that elemental cylinder. Clear, students? So sigma stress into area of the elemental cylinder, sigma dA is the force on the elemental cylinder at end AB, that is the section AB. Sigma means m by I into y into dA. Similarly, force on the end of the elemental cylinder on the section CD, another end of the elemental cylinder is sigma plus d sigma into dA in opposite direction force. In place of sigma plus d sigma, we can substitute m plus dm by I into y into dA. Clear, students? These are the forces in opposite direction on that particular elemental cylinder. These are the two forces which are opposite in the direction. So for particular a single section, opposite forces are different. If the opposite forces are same, that element is in equilibrium. But opposite forces are different. For example, one element is there like this. If we apply the 20 kilonewtons in this direction, if we apply the same force in opposite direction at this element, on this element, then this element is in equilibrium. Clear, students? If the force acting on the right hand side direction at the one end is 20 kilonewtons and another end in left hand direction not 20 kilonewtons, if it is acting over 30 kilonewtons, then what is going on that element? How the element behaves? The element moves in this direction. Element moves in that direction because 30 kilonewtons acting on left hand side direction, which is more than the 20 kilonewtons. Therefore, the element is not in equilibrium. The element moves in the higher load, higher force, in the direction of higher force. So here also, on particular cylindrical element like this, we are considering dA is the area on which the force acting at one end, that is the AB section, this is the force, and the another force acting at the CD section, this is the CD section, this is the force. M plus dm by I into y into dA is this force, and m by I into y into dA is this force. Both are different because bending moment are different at different sections. Therefore, forces also different. So due to this opposite direction different forces, unbalanced force acting on this elemental cylinder. Due to unbalanced force, this element is trying to move in the direction of higher forces. Clear, students? Due to this unbalanced force, the element is trying to move in the direction of unbalanced higher forces. So at the two ends of the elemental cylinder, the forces are different. They are acting along the same line but are in opposite direction. Hence, there will be unbalanced force on the elemental cylinder. Net unbalanced force on the elemental cylinder. How much unbalanced force is acting? If we subtract the higher force minus lower force, then we can get the unbalanced force acting on that particular element. So in the previous case, I explained that 20 kilonewtons in one direction, 30 kilonewtons in an opposite direction. What is unbalanced force acting on this element? 30 minus 20. Therefore, 10 kilonewtons unbalanced force acting on that element. Due to this 10 kilonewtons unbalanced force, the element moves in the 30 kilonewtons force. Clear, students? So we can subtract the forces on the opposite direction. We can get the unbalanced force on the element. This is the unbalanced force acting on that element. So how much unbalanced force acting? If we subtract, m by I y dA is cancelled. Therefore, we can remains dm by I into y dA. So dm by I into y dA is the unbalanced force acting on that particular cylindrical element. Due to this unbalanced force, the element is trying to slide. The element is trying to slide. This is cylindrical element is trying to slide on this direction. Like this, total area, we are considering a small elemental area. This elemental area is trying to slide in one direction. Due to this sliding, the shear stresses, because if one member slides and another member, the shear stresses are induced in opposite direction. I clearly draw. If we consider the element like this, we are considering a small elemental area. This is the small elemental area. This is trying to move in this direction. Due to movement, sliding, this elemental area is develop the shear stresses on the bottom and upper part of the material. The bottom part and upper part of the material, the shear stresses are produced in opposite direction. Okay? It is clearly shown from the next diagram. So the total unbalanced force on the level EF and between the two sections AB and CD, this is the only unbalanced force of that particular elemental cylinder. If we know, we want to find the total unbalanced force above the EF level. If we want the force, total unbalanced force, so we are considering only one particular elemental area above the EF level. Like that, we have so many areas. We have so many areas, so many particular cylindrical areas above the level EF. So if we want to find the total shear stresses or so total unbalanced forces above the level EF, we can integrate that above unbalanced force equation above the level EF. Total unbalanced force above the level EF and between the two section AB and CD may be found out by considering all the elemental cylinders between the section AB and CD and above the level EF. That is, by integrating the above equation 1, total unbalanced force is equal to integration of this equation. Why we are integrating this equation? This equation represents the unbalanced force of the particular unbalanced force on that particular elemental area which is considering above level EF. Okay. So this is the total area. By integrating this equation, we can get the total unbalanced force of the area above the level EF. Total unbalanced force of that area above level EF. Total unbalanced force, integration of dm by I into y dA. So in this, across the section means depth wise, the dm and I are constant. The bending moment does not vary across the section. It varies only along the beam. So it is area wise, it is not varies. So therefore dm is the constant. And I also does not vary across the section because it is the moment of inertia about neutral axis. These two are the constant which are not depends on the area. Therefore we can take it as out of the integration dmii. Integration of y dA. Y varies across the section because the layer which are considering, we are considering the particular layer EF at a distance of y, at a particular elemental area at a distance of y. If we consider another elemental area which is some other distance from the neutral axis, therefore y varies across the section for particular area. Therefore integration of y. This is integration of YdA, which is called the first moment of area about neutral axis. It is about neutral axis because Y is from the neutral distance of particular layer, elemental area from neutral axis. Therefore, integration of YdA is represents first moment of area. First moment of area, we can write it as AY bar. We know that AY bar equal to A1Y1 plus A2Y2. This is in the form of, if we elaborate this integration, A1Y1 plus A2Y2 like that. So we can represent integration of YdA as AY bar. This is called the first moment of area. Clear, students? Replace this integration YdA by AY bar. Y bar is the distance of CG. Distance of CG, that particular area above level EF from the neutral axis. A is the total area. Total area of the material above level EF. We are considering only the area, shaded area. Area means this is the shaded area, total area above level EF. Why we considering the only part of the area, not total area? Because due to sliding of this area above level EF, the shear stresses are induced at the EF layer. Only the area which is slides over the EF level, the shear stresses are induced. That's why we are considering only the above level EF. Area A. So AY bar dm by I, where A is the area of the section above the level EF. Always we are considering above level EF or at above Y1. Area of EFGH as shown in figure C. Y bar is the distance of CG of that area A from the neutral axis. Due to the total unbalanced force acting on the part of the beam above the level EF and between the section AB and CD shown in figure A, the beam may fail due to shear. So this unbalanced force, then we represent just the unbalanced force, this total unbalanced force acting on the area level EF level. Due to that area which is slides over the EF, the shear stresses are induced. Hence, in order to above part may not be failed by shear, the horizontal section of the beam at a level EF must offer shear resistance. Due to this unbalanced force, the resistance will be developed in opposite directions. That is the shear resistance. This shear resistance at least must be equal to the total unbalanced force to avoid the failure due to shear. So the shear resistance must be equal to applied unbalanced force. The shear resistance is used to avoid the fail due to shear. This is the diagram which shows AB level and CD level by applying by developing the unbalanced force. This is the unbalanced force which are derived from this equation dm by I into AY bar. This is the dm by I into AY bar is the unbalanced force which is acting on the left hand side. Due to this unbalanced force, the area, this area EFGH area which is slides over the another area. Due to this sliding one area over the another area, the shear stresses are induced at this particular level. That particular EF level, the shear stresses are induced. So how to calculate the shear stresses at particular level EF? Shear resistance at the level EF is equal to total unbalanced force. Total unbalanced force is dm by I into A into Y bar. This total unbalanced force, tau is the intensity of horizontal shear stress at level EF. Tau is the shear stress at particular EF level. P is the width of the beam at the level EF. This is the beam width at particular EF. Beam width is B. Area of on which the shear stress tau is acting. On how much area this tau is acting? Area means this is the dx. This is the dx is the length, and in this direction it is B. Like this. In this area, the area which is slides over the other area, beam is like this. This area represents, this is the dx, this is the B, breadth of the particular layer EF or beam. So this area represents B into dx. B into dx is the area on which the shear stress is acting. So shear stress into area, we can get the shear force. Shear force due to toe is equal to shear stress into area. Toe into B dx is the shear force. Then we can equate this shear force acting at the level EF or at layer EF is equal to total unbalanced force acting at a level EF or layer EF, dm by I into AY bar. We can equate these two equations, then we can get the shear stress at particular layer EF. Equating the two values of shear force given by equation 2 and 3, we can get toe into B dx is the shear force, dm by I into AY bar is the unbalanced force. These two are equal because due to unbalanced force, the shear forces will be developed. Therefore, toe is equal to dm by I AY bar divided by B dx. Rearrange this by rearranging this equation, dm by dx AY bar by into I into B. So dm by dx we can write as rate of change of bending moment along the beam, which is equal to shear force. Rate of change of bending moment along the beam is equal to shear force. Shear force ne rate of change of bending moment along the beam. And so rate of change of bending moment in last chapter shear force bending moment diagram, wherever the bending shear force is 0, maximum bending moment occurs, isn't it? In the shear force bending moment chapter, I explained you that wherever the shear force is 0, wherever the shear force changes sign, that particular point the bending moment is maximum. So if shear force is 0, F is 0, dm by dx is equal to 0. Dm by dx, if dm by dx first differentiation of bending moment equation 0, then we can get the condition for maximum bending moment. At a particular point, the bending moment is maximum. So from that, we can say that the rate of change of bending moment is equal to shear force. Therefore, dm by dx can be replaced by F. F into AY bar by I into B or B into I. So therefore, toe equal to F into AY bar by I into B is the shear stress equation. This is the basic equation which is very important in this chapter. By using this equation, we can calculate the shear stresses in different sections. A rectangular section, circular section, triangular section, also TI sections. We can, whatever the sections given, in every section we can calculate the shear stresses by using this equation. Toe equal to F AY bar by B into I or I into B. Clear, students? In this, where toe is the shear stress on the layer EF. This is shear stress on the layer. It's only one layer we are considering. On that particular layer EF, what is the shear stress? Toe. The AY bar is the first moment of area of EF about neutral axis. The area which is above the EF, that particular area, first moment of that area about neutral axis. I is the moment of inertia of whole section about neutral axis. B is the breadth of the layer EF, which varies across the beam. B is varies across the beam, because if we consider the layer at particular distance of Y, the breadth is B. The B varies across the beam. Dear students, this is the shear stress equation. I hope you understand how to derive this equation. Again, go through this equations which are derived from the basic principles. Understand that wherever you have the doubt during the deriving this equation, you can ask me in Google Classroom or by calling me. This is the final equation, toe equal to FAY bar by B into I, shear stress equation. From now onwards, we are going to derive the shear stresses for different sections, rectangular section, circular section, triangular section, like that. We are going to derive the basic sections and then derived sections. Up to now, I'm closing this class. Once again, go through this video 2-3 times, then only you can understand the derivation of this equation, shear stress equation. Okay, students, bye.